It's the big one. It's the grand finale at the end of this particular game. One of these two sides will go on to become multiple world champions and join the West Indies. The 2009 champions taking on the 2010 champions in the finale at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. It's England against Pakistan. A quick update. The toss has already taken place slightly earlier than usual. It's England who have won the toss. And like they did against India, they've decided to chase. Even before we dig deep into the history of these two sides, what lies ahead for them, let's look back a little bit and take a closer look at the road to the final. Yes, this is what we've built up to for the last couple of weeks. It's England taking on Pakistan at Melbourne. I mentioned the toss just to add one more fact to that. The last 10 knockout games in this particular tournament since 2014 have all gone the way of the chasing side. Add to that maybe a little threat of rain, the record of England in their semi-final. It could just give them an advantage going ahead for this grand finale. For now, here on Cricbuzz Live for one final time in this particular tournament, I'd like to welcome my guests, looking not just spiffing and sharp, but look like they've color coordinated, gentlemen. Parthiv and Zach, sort of contrasting shades of brown, one inside, one outside. Was this planned?
Parthiv missing test cricket.
Test cricket, so I have to be in the white. I'm missing test cricket, so always white, not a bit of chocolate.
Yeah, but this is going to be a test of both the teams. Yes, I may have mentioned the record, but I think at the end of the day, those records probably go out the window. It's all about today. It's all about the occasion.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter what you've done in tournament. It matters what you're doing today itself, and it's just final. And people want to forget whatever has happened, and then that's exactly what England and Pakistan would be thinking. The coaches would be telling them, the players would be thinking that we want to get into that present scenario, we want to get into that zone, and that finals atmosphere take over everything. And I'm sure that's something which they will be thinking about.
Yeah, and both sides. I mean, we've seen until the start. I mean, until the semi-finals, there were sides saying, okay, we would have liked to have batted first, put runs on the board. It's been the trend in this tournament. But for a variety of reasons, both captains wanting to bowl first, England have won the toss and chosen to do that. Babar Azam said he would have liked to have bowled first.
I think also because of the conditions. The conditions are overcast. Is something, there is possibility of rain around. Everyone have been talking about it. So that definitely must have influenced both the guys approaching the finals with bowling first. There might be some moisture in the pitch which they want to utilize. You've seen in Adelaide also that, maybe first 15-20 minutes you still have little bit of thing, even if the weather has been holding up well. It's just the fresh wicket at times adds that little bit of extra help to the bowlers. And in this format, you know that the margins are so small. 3 overs is also a big impact on the game. So that's something which both the captains must be thinking of. Strange though, like in finals, you would like to bat first because the pressure is something which always plays a part and can really be tricky at times when some team has batted first and they got to a total which is just around par or just above par. That adds a bit of extra pressure as well. So that is something which is surprising to see from both the captains to be deciding to bowl first. But now when you're looking at these two teams, okay, the journey have been pretty similar, right? Like England losing to Ireland, Pakistan losing to Zimbabwe. So they had a kind of, not exactly, but kind of a similar journey leading up to where they've reached, and it's creditable that both the teams have come to the finals. Now you look at the recent past. You look at England and Pakistan playing a tournament, playing a bilateral series before the World Cup, just around that time, and you can take cues from there. On a good track, England team is capable of scoring 200. They've been consistently doing that. So I think the pitch is going to matter a lot. How the pitch is behaving is going to have a huge impact on today's outcome.
Yeah, I mean, Nasser Hussain feels slightly patchy, fresh pitch, bit of moisture, and also we were looking at the figures and the stats. The bounce, the average bounce in Melbourne has been more even than, say, a traditional Perth type.
Yeah, that's something which we have seen throughout the tournament here in Melbourne and Perth. We've seen a lot of assistants, two bowlers. There is definite bounce, and plus wicket is under cover for 3 or 4 days because it was rain around. So there will definitely be, even if it's not rain, it's just the sweating of the cover also makes it a bit moisture wicket. So I'm sure looking at this point of time, I think England has an advantage. But having said that, Pakistan has a superior bowling attack. I mean, if you look at their bowling, they've got a complete bowling attack. So to me, I think either side of the game, Pakistan needs to get, even if they get 140, they would be really in the game because they've got proper bowlers who can get proper attacking English batsmen out.
Yeah, they've been pretty frugal with their bowling, but yes, it's going to be a battle of the bowlers. Also, remember, both sides won their respective semi-finals convincingly. With England, you could use another adjective, but in England's case, they decided to chase. In Pakistan's case, they were made to chase, but both finished off against New Zealand and India respectively. What would they then do with their playing 11s? Question was, will Mark Wood make his way back into the side? He was bowling off a short run, but the net result is they've kept faith in CJ. Chris Jordan retains his place from that semi-final, as does Phil Salt. So Malan's injury obviously was never going to heal, but there was a question of Chris Wood, or Mark Wood rather. So Chris Jordan keeps his place. England playing 11. Quick question, Zaheer. Given the conditions, given the extra bounce, would they have been tempted to even think of Mark Wood, or will they just keep faith with the?
Well, a fit, 100% fit Mark Wood, I would say, and that's very important. As a bowler, if you're not fit, your that edge is not there. That ability at the peak performance you've seen with various bowlers in this tournament so far. You look at Shaheen as well. Now he's fully fit. But still, it's a journey of getting back. So someone having a niggle, if you are able to manage that and pass the fitness test with flying colours, then only you take that risk. Otherwise, you'll be a bowler short. So then, in the crucial game, you have to, as a captain, think about how to take those overs out. And at times, it becomes very challenging. So I think it's a good call because you're backing your playing 11 who has done the job for you in the semis. You've crossed that hurdle. England bowling was good against India. They controlled. They didn't really let Indian batters to get away. So I think a fit Chris Wood would have surely be considered.
You got my infection. You also called him Chris Wood.
Huh?
Mark Wood.
I called him Chris Wood earlier, so I passed it on to Zach.
Mark Wood. Yeah. So Mark Wood, basically, if he was fit, then they would have definitely gone for him. But if he's not fit, then it's better to go in with the tried and tested right now, who has done the job in the semis, and trust them to do the job again.
Good combo. Chris Jordan plus Mark Wood becomes Chris Wood. That's what the confusion was all about. But really, whether or not they needed Mark Wood, the question was, the knee was not going to allow him to do that. He was walking around with a strapped right knee. And even though he bowled off a short run yesterday, no warm-ups for him today, and it was a unanimous decision to get in Chris Jordan. But certainly, England will take confidence from what they did against India. Yes, different surface, different day, but coming into this game, because it's really their bowlers in a sense who set it up with those first 15 overs.
It makes a huge difference, when someone chases down 170 by what in 16th over, and that means your bowlers have done the job. See, no matter which format you are playing, I think bowlers actually wins you game. They'll set up a game or they will defend the target. Even if you've scored 200, if your bowlers fail to defend that, that means these are the bowlers' game. And even if you scored 140, if you have quality bowlers, they can defend this target. So I think bowlers are huge. And as far as Mark Wood's concerned, I think you want your 100% fit players playing the final. Yes, there is quality. Yes, you might be tempted that even if he's 80% fit, let's try and play him. But then after all, you have to make sure that you have picked all those 15 players who are capable of playing at any given time. It doesn't matter whether it is final or not. You've done really well, but you want your fit players on the ground, and that's a right call to take by England.
Interesting to see how Pakistan approaches Adil Rashid, because they will have watched that game against India. He bowled beautifully. He was obviously trying to outthink the opposition, and I think that was the difference we saw in that Adelaide semi-final.
Oh yeah, he's had a terrific run so far. He's been an important cog in that England bowling lineup. Have been used predominantly with the matchups. You've seen Adil Rashid bowling that 6th over of the power play. So that was a calculated risk which is taken by the captain there. So England will approach in that fashion. They'll see how much help is there for the fast bowlers. You've seen Chris Woakes bowling 2 overs. You've seen Sam Curran bowling 2 overs in the game against India. Ben Stokes bowling 1, and then Adil Rashid chipping in with 1 over to close the power play. So it all depends on how the first 3 overs of the power play go, and then comes the call depending on the pitch conditions, whether there is spin on offer, no spin on offer, whether there are set batters in or the set batters are not there, because every batter who is batting there in the power play, the chat so far is very evident. You've seen Babar's press conference as well. He gave emphasis to the power play utilization. So that's something which you'll see from Pakistan team. They would want to encash this power play, because in this tournament so far we've seen the teams who have actually done well in power play would have had a better control on the game going forward to get in a position where they can put other team under pressure. So keeping all those things in mind, I think it will be interesting to see how Josh Butler uses Adil Rashid, because he has been using him in that fashion, just to change the momentum, just to entice the batsman that extra bit, which can result in wicket. And Adil Rashid have responded very well. The wicket of Surya is a classic example. If Surya had not gotten out in that over, what he can do at the back end of the innings. So yeah, I think Adil Rashid is going to be a very, very vital cog in this England bowling lineup in today's game.
And I think the opposition batsmen have not put in enough pressure on Adil Rashid. They did not try. Even the Indian batting, I thought they did not try to take him on. Only Surya was the one who tried to take him on and got out. Yeah. So I think sometimes when you're a leg spinner and if someone is trying to put pressure, then you get into a googlies and flippers. But I thought Indian batters or any other, even New Zealand batters, they allowed him to bowl the way they wanted him to bowl. So you have to put pressure on them. And Pakistan has changed their batting approach before the semi-final. Before that they were thinking of wickets in hand. Babar Azam and Rizwan, they wanted wickets in hand. But semi-final, they came out all guns blazing. They got 55 in 6 overs. So they understood the fact. I thought they were very smart in this tournament. They understood the fact from the first game itself that they needed an extra fast bowler. They got him. They didn't wait for it. And even when they reached semi-final, they knew that first 6 was very crucial. Yes, for 1 year and a half, we've been playing that conservative role. But here, if we want to win, we have to go attacking in first 6 overs, and exactly what they did. So I thought Pakistan is approaching this tournament really well, and adapting to situation has been top class from them.
Yeah, interesting on Adil Rashid. Michael Vaughan was on the show with us, and we were pulling out his historical numbers, and he had got 2 wickets in 9 games in the build-up to that particular game. But I think the way we saw it there, 1 key wicket, economy. That's why he becomes that vital cog in the wheel. Sometimes you only judge a bowler by how far up on the wickets table is he. But in Adil Rashid's case, it's 4 overs for 16 against Sri Lanka with 1 key wicket, the key wicket of Surya, and squeezing India in the middle. What about Pakistan and their lineup? They've gone with an identical lineup. And interestingly, we talked about the pace bowlers. They're the only team in the tournament, Zaheer, who have not bowled a spinner in the power play. And when you've got that quality, obviously you're tempted to.
We've been talking about pace battery of Pakistan. In fact, they started the tournament with only 5 bowlers. Then they added Mohammad Wasim Jr. to this playing 11, and that has worked really well. So he has provided that balance, moving away from Asif Ali and bringing him in was, I think, something which worked for Pakistan for sure. And look at these economies as well, and the number of wickets. Shaheen Shah Afridi actually started the tournament slowly, didn't really take any wickets in the first 2 games, but then really picked up, understood what is required right now for him to do with the kind of rhythm he has, and he's been now giving that important breakthrough with the new ball. So again, his rhythm, his form today, how he's going to take on the game is going to be of utmost importance to Pakistan if they have to really put England, the strong England batting lineup, under pressure. Whatever the pitch conditions you've been talking about, because of that, I think it's become an even game even before the start of the game. If that is the kind of pitch nature of the pitch you are talking about, and if it stays for the second innings as well, 40 overs, nothing much is going to change drastically. So that is a good sign for Pakistan before the start of the game. Like I was mentioning, on a true wicket, on a good track, England can take on anyone. Yeah. And they have the batting depth. We've been talking about that. They have the power. Once they make use of that power play, they can actually go on to chase down any kind of a total. So what is going to matter is that whether there is 2 paced bounce, that will create problem for England batters. Is there some spin on offer that can create problem for England batters? But looking at the conditions, overhead conditions right now, patchy pitch you're talking about, if there is little bit of 2 paced nature of the pitches around, then for sure I think it's going to be even game, considering the challenges which England batters will be facing when they bat. But other than that, if it's a true wicket, then it's very hard to contain this English batting lineup with any attack.
Yeah, but it's not any attack, at least that the numbers suggest. Not just the most wickets in this tournament, but also the most economical, and led late in the tournament, not late, but not absolutely at the beginning, by Shaheen Shah Afridi. He was slightly off colour against India, and he's worked his way into the tournament.
He didn't look that great against India, though the numbers don't suggest that. But when you look at how he was running, how he was getting in, obviously he looked like someone who did not have enough overs behind his back. But the Australia is not the easiest place to bowl. The sand-based ground, they don't allow you to be as fast as possible. But I thought he came back really well, and he bowled as a left arm seamer. Like, you want the ball to coming in, right? Yeah. When he started bowling, it wasn't coming in. The body was not responding as much. But as soon as you start playing games and you start winning games, that confidence comes in, and that's exactly what was happening with Shaheen Shah Afridi. And he got wickets, and at this economy and taking 10 wickets, you got to give a lot of credit to someone who everyone thought whether how he will fare in this World Cup. He did not have enough overs behind him. So, got to give a lot of credit to Shaheen Shah Afridi and Pakistan team management that they kept faith in themselves as well. So, they thought he's their main bowler, and he gives you that variety. When you are actually picking a side, you look at, you try and cover all the bases. You have a left arm seamer in Shaheen Shah Afridi, then you have Haris Rauf with raw pace. You have Naseem Shah who will bring in those Yorkers and slower ones, and then Mohammad Wasim Jr. is your bowler who can bounce you out. And then Shadab leg spinner, and if nothing's working, then Mohammad Nawaz is there. So I think they've got quality, everything basis as far as bowling is covered. So I think Pakistan, as Zach said, even though England's bowling first, I would still think that Pakistan has an edge in this one.
Just staying with Shaheen Shah Afridi, I think you had mentioned it earlier on the show, occasionally bowling well within himself in terms of the pace, but he's had to therefore make that adjustment. He had to wait till his 3rd game before he picked up his first wicket.
He has altered his length. That's what I was mentioning on the earlier show. So basically, the mindset as a bowler when you're bowling 145 is to really get the ball up when it's swinging, right? And when you're bowling at a maybe 10K slower, then you have to understand that what kind of length you should be bowling. You can't be bowling that full. Then you have to alter that length, and that's the change which Shaheen Afridi did in the tournament. After those first couple of games, yes, his rhythm was getting better, but the pace is still not the same as we've been seeing him bowl. That the peak pace for him is 145, and now he's bowling at around 136, 137, but is still creating that kind of impact. How? By altering that length, by changing that mindset. That okay, I can't bowl that really full delivery right now with the new ball and beat the batsman with pace. What he was doing was with the swing and the pace, both had going for him earlier. Now in this World Cup, what he has done is he has altered that length to get the similar kind of impact, because batsman has that much longer, since he's bowling at 136, 137. In tonight's game, he might be bowling a bit quicker because the occasion is going to get that energy out of him. So we'll have to wait and see how he goes. But on the whole, when you're looking at this Pakistan bowling lineup, you have pace, you have swing, you have variety, like how Parthiv was mentioning. Naseem Shah has been phenomenal, and Mohammad Wasim Jr. also bowls those good Yorkers. We saw some reverse swing in the previous game as well. Not this one. I think if the conditions are how are it to be believed, then reverse swing might not come into play. But they have the options to play the conditions. They have the bases covered. Even if someone is having an off day, they can squeeze the overs through. So there is enough resources for Babar to take advantage of on what is on offer.
Yeah, I mean, you can even add Iftikhar to the mix against Bangladesh. He squeezed in a few overs of Iftikhar. So lots of personnel for Babar Azam to turn to. But one key player who can be key both with bat and ball, and he showed it in this tournament, is Shadab. Parthiv, you briefly mentioned him. It's going to be a battle of leg spinners in the sense, Adil Rashid on one side, Shadab on the other. No matter what the two pace attacks are about, how key a role is Shadab going to be?
I think he's going to be biggest player in this final to me. I think though everyone talks about if pitch being tacky, the fast balls will come into play, but the wicket which seems it spins also. So I think Shadab Khan will be very important, and then he's been doing that. If you look at those numbers, we are not seeing the economy of 6.59 bowling in the middle and taking 10 wickets. He's been brilliant, and he's the highest wicket taker spinner in this tournament, and he's been taking wickets in clusters. Against South Africa when it was important, he took 2 wickets in 1 over. Against even Bangladesh when they game was slightly drifting away from them, he came in and took 2 wickets in an over. Then that's what you would expect from your leg spinner. Your leg spinners are your attacking bowlers. You want them to take wickets. You don't want them to go on a defensive role. I think and Shadab Khan has been brilliant, being brave. That Zach mentioned in last show that if you want to take wickets, you have to be brave enough to flight the ball, and exactly what Shadab Khan has been doing. We've been talking about his bowling, we've been talking about his batting, what he did against South Africa, scored brilliant 50, and we're forgetting his fielding. I think when we talk about that all 3-dimension player, I think Shadab Khan is probably one of that player right at top in world cricket.
Yeah, in fact, Matthew Hayden highlighted his run out as a turning point in the game against New Zealand. But really, it's since Parthiv already mentioned it, we talked about those wickets in clusters. It's sometimes you can have 10 wickets, and all those 10 wickets are cheap wickets. They can be the 20th over of an innings when everyone's hitting you all over the place. His wickets have come at key turning points. It's almost as if, to use a tennis analogy, someone hits 30 aces in a game. The question is, when are you hitting those aces?
Exactly.
If it's coming at 40 love, it doesn't count as much as when it's coming when you're 2 break points down.
Yeah, I think it's very important from Pakistan's point of view, because the revival of their campaign was initiated by Shadab, with the bat, scoring those runs, and then going on to take those wickets as well. So and like how Parthiv mentioned, he's a brilliant fielder as well. So you can't keep him out of the game. That's the kind of personality he has. So any player who is possessing all those kind of qualities will always have that impact. So if he's having a good day, and especially on big occasion, it's just going to lift up that whole squad and whole playing 11. So yes, Pakistan will be looking at Shadab's performance from 2 aspects. We've seen his overall contribution. But we've also seen how England approaches. England, once they get a start, they're not going to be taking things easy. They will be constantly putting the Pakistan bowling line under pressure, which we've seen against India, especially if they've not lost the wickets at the top. It's going to be a very tough ask. So someone will have to provide that crucial breakthrough, and I think Shadab will be loving those kind of encounters. He likes that. He likes when the batsman is going hard at him. Then it gives you more options. It brings out the best in you. There are the qualities of players, and I think Shadab is one of them. So for Pakistan's success in today's game, with looking at England's batting lineup and how their approach is, the positive mindset, I think Shadab will love that kind of a challenge and contest.
Last 3 matches, England haven't lost a wicket in the power play. That tells you a story. Against India, of course, they didn't lose one at all. But last 3 matches in the power play, they've kept the openers intact. But just to stay on Shadab for a moment, leg spinner who can score a 50 in blazing fashion, there has to be the inevitable comparison with a certain Shahid Afridi. We all talk about the new Afridi, but Shahid Afridi, very similar in mould. They've got a similar number of wickets as well in T20 cricket.
But Shahid Afridi was completely different. But if you look at those numbers, they're not, obviously Shahid Afridi's numbers are slightly superior in terms of economy and strike and wickets also. But we look at 97 wickets to Shadab Khan as well. But runs the way Shahid Afridi was batting. See, he's been a legend and for Pakistan. He has won new World Cups. He was player of the tournament in 2007 World Cup when India won. Shahid Afridi was a player of the tournament. So obvious comparison do happen, but these are different kind of players. Shahid Afridi was not someone who would spin the ball, who would not give you that air. He had that different kind of bowling, and Shadab is completely different. Shadab is your test bowler also, someone who can flight the ball, someone who can take wickets. But see, but the character wise, I think they both are almost same. They both want to be in the game. They would want to take those catches when get things get tougher. They want to be in the situation where most balls are coming as a fielder. They want to be in the contest when crucial runs they want to score. So yeah, character wise they definitely are similar, but I think bowling style of Afridi and Shadab Khan is slightly different, but batting is I think Shahid Afridi was far better batsman than Shadab.
Yeah, if I remember right, I think in the 2009 edition when Pakistan actually won, Afridi was not, I mean, he performed well, didn't get player of the tournament. I think it was Dilshan.
Yeah.
And he wasn't very happy. He said, we won the tournament, I've played this role. But interestingly, towards the end of his career, he used to be like, I'm a specialist leg spin bowler. He almost said, I've lost interest in batting. He would do it just for fun.
Well, I think it's not easy to be a power player through and through. So at some stage it's going to catch up. At some stage your reflexes slow down, and then you will not be able to have that kind of impact. But that's the advantage with all rounders, isn't it? You can find a way of creating similar kind of impact, and this format actually brings that value out beautifully. If you are a good fielder, if you are able to bowl consistently 4 overs, like Shadab bowls 4 overs, the Afridi also used to bowl 4 overs consistently in any game. So that's an advantage. So batting, yes, when it clicks, when it doesn't, it doesn't. But with ball in hand, you will be bowling those 24 deliveries consistently. You will be maybe be effective in any of the runouts. You will be saving some runs on the field. So that adds. So I think the value of a player who is able to do all 3 things is always going to be very high in this format for sure. And Shadab and Shahid Afridi both have been doing that. So the comparison is very, very evident. Yeah, the ability and the style is completely different. The characteristics is completely different. But the impact and the contribution, you can measure them on that. And I think both are standing equal when it comes to that.
Well, Shadab's going to have to wait for a while before he gets his leg spin in action, because England are bowling first. So the first focus is going to be on Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan. Start of the tournament, Babar Azam had a string of single-digit scores. The partnership was being broken in the power play every single time consistently. And suddenly, last couple of games, particularly the semi-final, it just looks like their timing is perfect. If anyone's peaking at the right time, it's this pair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you want your pair to score runs in semi-final, and especially on that difficult wicket. That wicket was not easy, but they probably had to change their plan itself, because they were playing with certain style till semi-final, but they knew if we don't get runs in this power play, we will struggle. And that even after that kind of start and that kind of partnership of 105 or 76 balls, there were chances. New Zealand still had their chances in the game. So yeah, obviously Babar Azam's quote, and Matthew Hayden, he did say that Babar Azam is batting well in the nets. So sometimes how scores actually doesn't tell you how well you're batting. Sometimes when you are batting well in the nets, so coaches and captains, Babar is obviously a captain, but coaches know that they are not far from big knock. That's what coaches usually do when someone's batting well. You go and tell them that you're not far from getting a big one. And I'm sure Pakistani coaches would be telling Babar Azam, and he clicked at the right time. But then it showed his character as well. When his back was against the wall, he came out and played something completely different, which he had not done for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Hayden, I think, has been quite vocal with various individuals, but particularly about this pair, Babar and Rizwan, and this is what he had to say. Both men highly geared toward nationalistic pride. They get each other, they get the game of cricket, they understand it's going to have its lulls, and they've got each other's backs. I think that's the key. That's why I think Matthew Hayden's played a key role in that dressing room. They've enjoyed his presence, and he's obviously been rubbing off on them.
Yeah, and you look at Hayden Gilchrist, the kind of impact they had on international cricket, the way they used to approach their batting, the positive mindset is very important. And I think that's definitely something which he will be mentoring them with, and that's something which Babar and Rizwan both must be taking advantage of. They've been the main component of Pakistan's success. If you look at their success ratio, every time these two have started well, what kind of impact they've had on their batting innings. Predominantly, if you see, Pakistan have always been making the games on their bowling. Their bowling has been their strength, but as batting unit, you got to find a way of getting to that total, which is going to put you in position of winning games and put you in position of keeping the opposition under pressure. From that point of view, it was very important. The middle order was something which was a concern. Even when the tournament started, every time you're talking about Pakistan, you're talking about Babar and Rizwan. What kind of contribution they'll be bringing to the table, how effective they're going to be, and how important their partnership is going to be for team success. So Matthew Hayden is clearly understanding that and making sure that he's inspiring them, motivating them before the big one to take that added responsibility and do the job for the team.
I think then opening the batting is all about chemistry and trust. It's a knowing each other well. That is very important. When someone else is going hard, if Babar is going hard, Rizwan understands that he has to make sure that he keeps in on strike, so that he can keep getting into his tempo. And if Rizwan is going hard, Babar Azam makes sure that he keeps in on strike. So when you are playing really well in first 6 overs, you want to be on the strike, so that you can keep hitting those boundaries. So I think to understanding each other's game is so important. That is the reason why if you talk about Gilchrist and we talk about Sachin Saurav or Sehwag together. So I think that's where Babar Azam and Rizwan, they both understand each other's game. The trust is very, very important.
It's one thing to understand each other's game, but a follow-up to that, in today's context, they've found their form in that semi-final. They had a target in mind.
Yep.
Today, they will not technically have a target in mind. They're batting first. How should they approach the game, especially the power play?
I think they'll have to assess the wicket first, especially because wicket's been under cover. You have to know whether it is seaming or not. Sometimes wickets behave completely differently, but when we go with some pre-ideas that it might swing, but you have to understand that it might not even swing, might not even seam. So you have to understand that in first couple of overs, and assess the condition is so important. Once they know, they'll have their target in mind. They'll know that whether they want 140 is a good, 160 is good, or 180 is good. And then that's how they'll approach the inning. But I think first 2 overs are very, very important as far as understanding and assessing the conditions.
Pakistan also have an X factor who they didn't have at the start of the tournament. Everyone wondered, where was he all this time? Where did he come from? Mohammad Haris. The moment he walked into bat, when he was drafted into the team in place of Fakhar Zaman, people were wondering, okay, not many people knew him. And you have a look at that first impact, 28 of 11. And interestingly, in all 3 games, he's come in very different situations.
It's been the strike rate which is striking, isn't it? And he's playing with that freedom. The management also expecting that kind of a role, and he's solved that important issue because you've seen Babar and Rizwan. They like to take their time at the top. now the chat of making use of the power play, which is coming on, and in this kind of a game, you got to understand the pitch conditions very quickly. Not for Mohammad Haris. I think Mohammad Haris will bat in that same fashion, doesn't matter. But for Babar and Rizwan to understand, since they're batting first, they need to understand those conditions very quickly. Otherwise, you can get caught up. You can get caught up with the thought process that we have to make use of the power play. So, what is the kind of score you are looking at? Are you looking at 45, 50? Are you looking at 60? What is the good score on this particular pitch? So, all that communication is going to be very critical in today's game. Not going to be easy because you are looking at England's batting lineup. So what kind of a score which you're going to set on this particular pitch if you are batting first? This batting lineup is definitely going to add that extra pressure on Pakistan batting lineup, because when you look at England's batting lineup and how they played against India also, you don't know what kind of a score you can set for them. So you have to really quickly judge that what is this pitch like, what is the ideal score, ideal par score on this pitch. And when you get that extra runs than par score, you know that your position is that much stronger. Now, whether that par score is 200, whether that par score is 180 or 150, is going to be the task of these openers to communicate as quickly as possible back and say that, okay, we're going to target this. Let's see where we land. But this is a 150 pitch, or this is a 165 pitch. And then you see that if you get 180, then that's 15 run added cushion which you have, which will strengthen, and you know that any batter who's going to be batting on this, you can create that pressure by bowling well. So I think that is going to be the important aspect when Pakistan is batting right now, and that is the advantage which England will have, because they've also added that pressure, and that's the call which they've taken of bowling first, and that's the call they did against India as well, because you've seen the numbers, they were not in their favor. Yeah. When you're looking at the history and all that, they were not in their favor, but they still said, okay, this will work. This will add that extra pressure on Indian batting, and the bowlers, if they do this kind of a planning, which worked for them. So I think that's something which Pakistan will have to deal with too.
Well, so he's already set the trend, mentioning the 150s, the 160s, the 180s, 181, the average winning total here in T20I history. So we'll wait and see. But now that he started us off on that, we might as well just keep on that thread and get a little prediction in. Zaheer, you can start since you've been mentioning all the numbers.
I think 155. 155 in the finals. If Pakistan batting first right now, we are going by what kind of pitch is going to be like, whatever the reports which we are getting, if it's in line with that, and if Pakistan gets to 155, I think it'll be an interesting game then.
Higher, lower?
Lower. I was going 149, but I think 149 wicket will have something in wicket. But then 149 and 149 should be enough with Pakistan's bowling. Because I've been talking about England's batting. I would be in Pakistan's dressing room right now with this kind of bowling attack. If I was captain, I would be really happy to have this kind of bowling attack with me.
All right, I'm going to just sneak in a little bit higher at 169. 169. But yeah, I think the one number that stood out for me for Mohammad Haris was that he's not just come and hit every single ball. 30 of 26 in the game against New Zealand, when he was needed to be slightly more conservative.
That it showed his maturity as well. It wasn't just about strike rate. It was about staying calm. You're playing all important semi-final. You're just playing your fourth or fifth T20I, and you needed those two hits. I think that one hit which hit boundary of Yorker, and that six where everyone else was finding it difficult to hit those boundaries. And it showed that with the skill, he has the ability to handle pressure as well.
Well, things are underway. Guess who's bowling the first over? No prizes for that, Ben Stokes. But we're gonna give you a question that you don't really need to guess for. A little bit more skill required. It comes from Joy. This is his Joy Factor question before we wrap. Here it is for the grand finale. And this question is, I made my T20I debut in the same match as a current player of the Delhi IPL franchise. I'm one of the few cricketers ever to win a Player of the Match award in my first 2 matches. There you go. Who am I? Figure that out. Not too many clues given, but that's got to be a tough one. It's a tough game. It's the World Cup final. So naturally, Joy will make it a little bit tougher for all of you. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Get your answers back to us. We, of course, will assess Pakistan's run progress in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, thank you to Zaheer. Thank you to Parthiv. We'll see all of you in the mid-innings. And of course, before that, at over number 10.